Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deck Musings. So, we're still in this place in time, because I've got plenty of mileage around the 97 World Championships. And so far in the first episode we looked at Senior Stompy, Green Stompy deck. Last week we were looking at a Prismatic black deck, a 5-colour deck. And this week we're going to be taking a look at a deck that has blue in it, amongst other colours. So the next 2 weeks, this week, next week, I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at decks that have a control element in them. Is that something I don't know if I touch on that much. It's certainly a archetype that I'm not super familiar with. Like if I'm ever playing blue, it'll be in combination primarily with black. So it's interesting to see at this point in time what was going on around the time of the World Championship. So here's the article on MTG Wiki. This is the deck we're going to be looking at. Like the previous episodes, it is available as a pre-con if you can still track it down. So there were 4 decks, 2 of which we've covered already. So the 4 decks were the Prismatic Black Agro, which was actually the one that the world champion for that year, for 97, played in the standard portion of the tournament. We've got the one we're looking at this week. There was the one we looked at the first week, which was the Green Stompy, the Senior Stompy deck. And then I think next week I'm going to have a look at this one, which is the Red-Blue deck, because it provides an interesting contrast. If you look at this one, you've got 18 creatures. If we look at the one we're going to look at today, we have 8. So yeah. So I've set this up in Architect, and as I've done in previous episodes, I've used the versions of the cards that were most recent to the World Championship, and to help me do that I actually use the World Championship deck as a starting point, and then look at the artwork it's featuring, and then work out from that what cards to use. So that's why we've got a lot of white borders here, because in those decks it seems to be featuring the artwork from the core set. Because some of these there's going to be black bordered versions of that would be legally playable because they're the same card. It's just they happen to be printed in an earlier version of Magic, because core sets back then were always reprints. So just to break it down, we have 8 creatures, 22 lands, 5 sorceries, 25 instants, and a 15 card sideboard. So I'm going to change the view to grid view. We'll go through this and then we'll look at the cards individually, as we've done in previous episodes, and look at similar cards in Magic's history, cards around the time, cards going forward, how many times maybe the card was reprinted, give us a clue as to why a card fell out of fashion. Well, one reason might be because it wasn't available in standard anymore, or an equivalent wasn't available in standard. So our creatures, I only got 8 here, 4 of each. Frenetic Efreet, 1 blue-red, flying, 2/1, 0. Flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in your favour, Frenetic Efreet phases out. Otherwise, bury Frenetic Efreet. So interesting ability there. And we'll perhaps see why in a moment. We need that either phased out or in our library, because you can see, you know, there's a, we can choose to activate this or not. So 2 and a 1 for a 1 blue red. Wildfire Emissary, 3 and a red, protection from white, 1 and a red, +1/+0 until end of turn, and it's a 2/4. And then here's all our instants. So we've got Swords to Plowshares, remove target creature from the game, and that creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Abeyance, or 1 and a white, until end of turn, target player cannot play instants, interrupt sorceries or abilities requiring an activation cost. Draw a card. Counterspell, just counter target spell. Disenchant, and that's mainboarded. Destroy artifact or enchantment, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. Impulse, that's 1 and a blue. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Shuffle your library afterwards. Incinerate, which we've seen before now in previous episodes. 1 and a red, Incinerate deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Creatures damaged by Incinerate cannot regenerate this turn. We have Force of Will, 3 and 2 blue, but you may pay 1 life and remove a blue card in your hand from the game instead of paying Force of Will's casting cost. Notice you're exiling that card if you choose the alternative cost. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life, counter target spell. Then there's our land base. So we're in 3 colours here. So we've got 6, 6 and 4 of islands, mountains, plains respectively. We've got a City of Brass. So whenever City of Brass becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to you, but if you tap it, you can add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. So use that to fix your mana, to generate mana of any colour. Thawing Glaciers comes into play tapped. 1 tap, search your library for a basic land and put it into play tapped. This does not count towards your 1 land per turn limit. Shuffle your library afterwards. At the end of turn, return Thawing Glaciers to owner's hand. So interesting ability here. And then Undiscovered Paradise. Add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. At the beginning of your next untapped phase, return Undiscovered Paradise to owner's hand. So we've got a lot of this, or say we've got a few cards here that are bouncing. Only 1 copy of this as well. And 1 copy of City of Brass. So let's look at these cards individually. You can see, well, this was only ever printed in Mirage. 2/1 for 3 with flying. So let's have a look. These are all just references. So phasing, you can see here, let's just look at when sort of phasing first appeared. I think that would be a good thing to do. So if we order this in release date order by ascending, and then do as I've done before, which is first printing. So the first time we see phasing specifically mentioned is here. That will be in Mirage. So there's the card, and yeah, you can see it's present quite a bit in Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight, and then we don't really see it again much. Turns up here in C17. And then more recently we're seeing it again. So suddenly phasing is back. But yeah, massive gap. And you can have some interesting fun and games with this. This is an interesting commander. Also got one of the charms as well, which has phasing in it. The other thing is coin flips. Again, something you don't really see that much. Again, like really early sets here. So this would be Arabian Nights. This is the dark here. And these ones are, yeah, Fallen Empires. This is an interesting one. This was a book promo. So yeah, it turns up as a book promo and doesn't end up in a set until Eternal Masters. I do have some of these book promos, but I don't believe I have this. There's our Efreet again. What's this? Pandora's Box. Astral cards. Interesting. Exodus. As a block. So we are seeing coin flipping sort of staying with Magic for quite a while. Yeah, there it is in a modern set. It's mirrored in. You notice there's a few unsets here as well when we look through these. So that's definitely something that seems to have stuck around a little bit longer, is coin flips. And some of these really old ones always make me smile. So I wonder if this, now I've had a chance to mull this over, I was looking to see if there was anything in the deck, like, I don't know, an enchantment that I might leverage this in some way. But is this purely being used as additional evasion in some way? So it's already flying, so it's a flying for 2/1. We might never use this because it does have an activation on it, although it's 0. And yeah, interesting. So I suppose you could use it in response to... Well, yeah, that's a good point, actually. If you were being bolted, because you can activate this in response, and the way you might look at it, well, if the card's being removed, then at least I've got a choice that it's going to phase out and come back. Or it could just end up in the graveyard, which it will do anyway. So you've got a 50-50 chance of it actually being removed, or it phasing out and then coming back in. So yeah, interesting. Let me know if I've actually got that right. Again, these episodes, there's a good chance I'm going to get this stuff wrong, because in effect what I've decided to do, I'm trying to avoid reading my book on deck deconstruction that I've mentioned before. I think I've shown on camera in one of the Seeds of Flourishing episodes, because I just want to go through the process of trying to assess these on the fly. Because you can tell by the smile on my face, I really enjoy doing that and just seeing if I get it right. So yeah, let me know if I've completely misinterpreted that. Because I can't see anything in the deck that might necessarily interact with that, unless I'm missing something. Yeah, so you get a 2/1 with flying for 3. So probably at the time that was considered to be quite a good costed card. Okay, so we have a card that's not a dragon, which has fire breathing. I must admit, I cannot remember what an Efreet is. I don't think I'll bother looking it up. Again, yeah, this is cropping up in these Eternal Masters and Mystery Boosters. So 2/4 for 4, but you can extend its power if you have more mana to invest. It's got protection from white, so it's not going to fall foul of any white removal spells that are kicking around at the time. Let's have a look at the stuff in here. Yeah, so obviously it's a mana sink where we can sink in excess mana, although we do need to make sure we've got red, and of course you can use this multiple times if you have the required amount of mana. So fire breathing, as you probably know, is an old thing. Oh, look at this. This is interesting. Okay. So I'm going to be doing this a lot, so I should hold this. Let me do that. We will do that. Oh, look at this. Oh. So we have an enchantment called Fire Breathing. Isn't stuff like this really interesting? Like you've got, a blue card from way back, a limited edition, with the fire breathing effect on it. So there's our aura, our namesake card. How many cards does it have here? 215. Yeah, so on and off you can see it's manifested itself in quite a few colours over the years. Every colour. I wonder if after, well, I was going to say, I wonder if after around sort of 4th or 5th edition, judging by that blue card when that was reprinted, I suppose we're starting to see it less and less in other colours. Maybe, I don't know. Well, it certainly looks a little bit like that. I suppose one thing for me to do, if I felt so inclined, is something like this. So if we do white, and this includes, obviously, some are going to get double counted because this is just saying one of the colours is white. Blue 12. What about black? 29. I suppose if someone was to ask me, like, what colour do you see it? Do you remember seeing it in most, apart from red? It would probably be black, actually. So yeah, 146. And in green, what do you reckon? I don't reckon many, but I could be wrong. 12. And look, you can see a lot of the more modern cards. It's coming as a result of what? Red or black, maybe? I mean, some are conditional. Folk of the Pines. Let's just move back to here. What else do we... So yeah, I imagine there's quite a lot of cards. You always get this in Magic where you get obviously protection from certain colours, or there's a downside. We've seen it in multiple episodes of set musings. And just mana sink can be a mana sink for anything. You sometimes see it, it can trigger a number of different things. And you might see with those sort of pump effects, there might be a limitation placed on how many times you can sink mana into it in a turn as well. I think I've seen that more often than not on non-black cards where there might be a twist in there, and it just might make it crazy good if you could, do it more than once. Okay, so that's all our creatures out the way. So we're now onto Abeyance. So I found this interesting. So until end of turn, target player can't cast instant or sorcery spells, and that player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So I was wondering, how does that differ from a card like Silence? Oh, that's can't cast spells, that's right, yes. Okay. That's right. It's funny, whenever I'm doing this cards bounce into my head, and I think, is that the same, or does it work differently against different cards? Oh look, there we go. So it's considering it as sort of silence type card. Play instants, interrupt sorceries or abilities. Doesn't mention creatures though. Prevent activation, 8 activation, cantrip, because you've got this draw a card. Yeah, that's something. You know, cantrips where there's this draw a card bolted on the end. Now, historically, with cantrips, they seem to have, I think they've slightly changed over time, haven't they? Because originally, a cantrip was draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. There was always a delay thing, and then it went over to being just draw a card. And isn't that a term that comes from D&D, I think? So there's all our silence effects. Let's have a look, because that card's always fascinated me. Also, there's Abeyance. Was that really the first time? M10, wow. So that's the instant speed, as is silence. That does all. Oh, that does all spells, but doesn't do abilities requiring an activation cost. Got a counterspell stapled together there as well. It's the other thing that is always interesting, I think, is like cards that just generally fall into a certain category. So it's interesting to take a slice down through. For instance, I used to do this a long time ago, where I'd look at, say, well, we've got a dewdrop here in white. And it's an instant. Like, what other instant speed, utility do you get in white that's a 2-drop? Actually, we should do IDF1. I just want to look at mono white. Hang on, I made a mistake there. Number of colours is 2. That's not right. That should be CMC. There we go. That makes more sense. So yeah, the instant speed white 2-drop. Oh, of course, we need the is first printing. I don't think it's there yet. Oh, that thing, reverse polarity, that's amusing. Oh, Disenchant. Right. Right, moving on. Counterspell. Banned in Historic. So yeah, this is... Wow, this is interesting. I forget that. Yeah, so no actual... there's other cards that do this. But, yeah. So we're here. It's in the deck, reprinted in Tempest. Crops up, not surprising, the World Champ decks, and that's it. Obviously too powerful for Historic. I don't know, what would I say is my favourite artwork? I mean, I suppose you've got the original. See that? What happened there? Because I knew this was reprinted later. So 25th edition. Was it ever reprinted in a standard set though? It looks like they tried to avoid reprinting it in standard. So I wonder why. Normally it chops it off at the bottom here, but it's chopped it off at the top as well. It might just be because it's right, yeah. Actually, because it's right in the middle. Okay. So I take that back again. Pretend I never said that. But it was being reprinted up to what, 7th edition in terms of cards that would have been playable in standard. These are all like special sets, aren't they? Yeah, so a little bit later than I thought. I wonder what was that in P2. I can never remember these masterpieces. Although that one would be the M&Cat masterpiece. But that would only then make it playable in sealed if you opened it. Let's just have a look. So what did it become? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of these things. So not surprisingly better than Cancel. What does Mystic Denial do? Okay. Solemngar's Scorn. 2 blue. Unless it's controller. Okay. Wizard's Retort. 1 less to cast if you control a wizard. So that brings it down to the same price as a counterspell. Of course, Nullify. Counter target creature or a spell, so it doesn't do everything. And then we have Mana Drain. 2 blue, counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of colours equal to that spell's... Oh dear. So that's pretty powerful. I forget about Mana Drain. Banned in Legacy. Yeah, well, that says it all really. Far too powerful. Particular version. Good old interrupts. $472 counterspell type things. Spells that counter stuff. See child tags for variance. Behaviour notably counterspell soft. which gives the opponent a buyout. Okay. So I know there's a lot to look at, but let's just have a look at this and see like some of the earliest examples of this. What happened there? Oh, forgot to change the release date to... So blue elemental blast counters a red spell. Counterspell, power sink, spell blast. Okay, so we've got some here that are colour specific, like death grip, or card type specific. Arcane Denial. Counter target spell. That spell's caster may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. We've already seen, well, we'll be seeing Force of Will in a moment. So yeah, let's cancel. Disenchant, we've looked at this on previous weeks. But let's just go in here. So you've got things like naturalising green, Seal of Cleansing, Seal of Primordium. So you get overlap here, you've got Abolish. And then, you know, you're seeing it stapled on to creatures as well. So we'll have a quick look. There's our original artwork. And there's naturalising green. Prior to that, oh, of course, creeping mould. 2 and 2 green. Destroy target artifact, land or enchantment. Well, quite a big mana investment there. There's Force of Will. Obviously, yeah, never reprinted in standard. Pact of Negation. Oh, of course, these things. Remember these? So where the 0, you counter the target spell, but then at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 3 and 2 green. If you don't, you lose the spell. And there was a cycle of those pacts. So yeah, interesting to see sort of counter spells, which, yeah, this is actually quite useful. So we've got this counter spell free, and there, you know, the free is you can cast them with no mana cost, but there's some other cost that you might incur. So yeah, this is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Let's have a look actually, because that's the sort of thing. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is, well, probably the main reason. Okay, days, foil. Yeah, but interesting, like, it's not something that obviously you want to crop up that much. Because with some of these, I imagine it can be abused. I mean, wasn't it the case with these packs that if you knew you were gonna win the game before the next upkeep, you could play it even though you didn't have the cost, so you would lose the game anyway. Oh, Mindbreak Trap. Huh. If an opponent casts 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay Mindbreak Trap's mana cost. So there it's more of a conditional thing. Foil here, so you may discard an island and another card from your hand instead of paying 4's mana cost. Counter target spell. That's really specific in terms of an island. There's some more of these, like you can do this by getting rid of this, but the condition's slightly different. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. What's that from? 2020. Never been reprinted. Surprise! Is that? Hang on. So I just wanted to check something. Okay. Mental misstep. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, again, reminds you of other things here. So, yeah, the introduction of Phyrexian mana on, 1-drops meant that, you weren't paying for the casting cost on. There were several cards where that was the case. That's taken me now down an interesting avenue. Oh, no, I won't go down it, but that will be an interesting search to do, which is like 1-drops which have 1 Phyrexian mana. Yeah, go away before you do it. Impulse. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them on the bottom of your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Shuffle your library afterwards. Cropped up in Battle Bond and a mystery booster. One and a blue. So what are they saying? Better than anticipate. Top 3 cards. So yeah, always interesting to see these, library manipulation cards where, you're looking at the top of your library, you put one of them or a number of them in your hand, and then the rest go somewhere. Shimmer of Possibility do? Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them, rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, so you don't get to choose. Without body. It's a creature. Yeah, so that's got it stapled on as an ETB. Exemplary. Okay. Look at the top end cards and put yeah. Red pseudo card draw effect. Okay. That's interesting. Historical thing to look at is these impulse effects. 2 and 3 blue. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Around home. The other thing I like about this, when you start looking up similarity or namesake cards, or cards that are based on an effect, people might call it an impulse effect, you get these artifacts crop up, particularly where they're like repeatable, and then just looking at what is the cost. So this is 4 to cast, 5 to activate. Top 3. Draw the main. Okay, so what's that? Reveal the top 3 cards of your library to target opponent. Bury one of those cards of that opponent's choice and then draw the remaining. I have yours. Wow. Yeah, Aladdin's lamp. So Diabolic Vision, it's blue-black. Look at the top 5 cards of the library and put one of them into your hand. Put the remaining 4 on top of your library in any order. Ooh. Wonder how much that is. Is that... Never been reprinted. Sorcery Speed. Impulse is instant. Incinerate. Yeah, I think we've looked at this numerous occasions now, but let's see if we can take a slightly different angle here, maybe. So we did have a look at lightning bolt type effects. What's Fire Ambush? 1 and a red. Fire Ambush deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So, what's this? Burn any. Have a look at that. So I always get the 2 muddled up, Incinerate and Disintegrate, for some reason. So in the grand scheme of things, there's Incinerate. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of variation going on here as in terms of the types of burn, the level of burn, how it's distributed. Interesting legend. 2 and 2 blue, tap Revika, deals 2 damage to target creature or player and does not untap during your next untap phase. Skull Catapult. And things like Death Spark. Volcanic Hammer. Volcanic, did I say? Volcanic Hammer. Oh, there we go. See, Pyroblast, 4 and 2 red. You may sacrifice 2 mountains instead of paying Pyroblast casting cost. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player. So another alternative cost card. It's funny, like costs are all over the place here. Oh yeah, Chain Lightning. Single red Chain Lightning does 3 damage to each one target. The target creature control then pay 2 red to have Chain Lightning. Do 3 damage to any target of that player's choice. Fireball. It's slightly different, of course. Scalable spell. They changed the wording on that at all? Oh yeah, look, they've slightly changed that, so I wondered. Swords to Plowshares, banned in Historic. So single white removal, remove target creature from the game. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Similar to Lay Down Arms, exile target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of planes you control. Its controller gains 3 life. And then we've got a number of cards in various colours that exile a creature. And you can see, if we look at that particular thing, historically so yeah, there's our original Swords to Plowshares. How much is one of those? Doesn't have a price. If you don't know the price, you can't afford it. It's funny. Fortunately, it's been reprinted a few times. And then we've got things like Exile, where it's 2 and a white, but you're still removing, but this is why it's a certain colours of creatures. And you get to gain life equal to the creature's toughness. And that was another thing you might notice over time, particularly with white removal spells, this thing of targeting specifically attacking creatures or blocking creatures. It's like it's punishing fighting. Let's reciprocate. Well, this as well with cards like Crib Swap, and what's the other one? Afterlife, where it removes the creature from the game and then the controller gets some sort of token creature. And then we have Unmake, of course. Oh, there's Disintegrate. So our scalable spell, I'm assuming it's Blaze, deals X damage to any target, so yep, any target. So why is this better? Well, that creature cannot regenerate this turn. If the creature has dealt lethal damage this turn, then remove it from the game. So there's an exile on that. Yeah, damaged creatures are exiled instead of dying. A root sword. And then we got things like carbonize as well. What's this? 6 to cast, 3 tap, target attacking creature gains +2/+0 until end of turn. Any creature damaged by a target creature may not be regenerated this turn. If such a creature is placed in the graveyard this turn, remove it from the game. If target creature leaves play before end of turn, Rune Sword is buried. Wow. They actually, no, it doesn't look like they've condensed that down in any way. Oh, you can pick up a copy in Chronicles and it's not that expensive. I mean, I just think it looks cool. It's rather expensive in terms of the cost, but yeah, it's funny. Removal creature burn. Oh, loads, yeah. Oh, Hammer of Bogardan, I think that is. So plenty of burn in the deck. Yeah, there's an interesting combination, isn't here, of like red, white, blue. Control through either burning stuff out, counterspelling it out, or exiling it out. Repeating barrage. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like really usable burn. So how does repeating barrage come back then? Let's say from the graveyard. Burn any, activate from graveyard. How common is that in mono red? So there's Hammer there. Just go through the colours actually, again, because I'm curious. It's white, blue, yeah, I'd expect quite a bit in black. Red we already saw. Interesting the range of cards as well and what it tends to focus on. Very cool. Okay, City of Brass, well, again, something else we've seen before. Quite a number of... did we look at Tarnished Citadel? I think we had one kind of... Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and now it's coming back to me. And there's a whole load of these 5-colour rainbow lands. Yeah, we are going to get it, obviously, the more episodes I do around the same time in Magic's history, the more likely I'm going to get overlap. I'll try and endeavour to mix it up each week, if I can. Sometimes it is nice to go back. How much is this? It's also on the list. What does that look like? creepy token. Anyway, I've digressed slightly. What's the most recent thing? Archway Commons. Oh yes, yeah, we would have covered this, wouldn't we? Yeah. What were the lands like then in Plane Shift? Yep, it's amazing how you get curious about things. So now I've gone off on a complete tangent, but I need to, there's an itch here I need to scratch. So set, oops, no, not first printing. Was it PLS? Yeah. And what's it? Type land. Wow. All uncommon. How much are those? Have they ever been reprinted? Did it come up in Domineria Remastered? I'm wondering if I have some of these. I don't think I do. Because of course they're namesake cards for the dragons in the set. Anyway, now we've gone off on a complete tangent. Oh, Thawing Glaciers. Oh yeah, Maze's End. So that's searched out for gates. Bounce Self. Manaless Land. Oh yeah, Manaless Lands. That's something you really don't see anymore, is it? I mean, I see they've included in here lands that you sack. But that's, that's a curious thing. Of course, these are the ones that people are most familiar with. But back in the day, you did used to get a lot of, a lot more utility lands, which just did that. They had utility and nothing else. And yeah, really now we only see it with the fetch lands, where you sack them and go and fetch something. But before that, it was this sort of area here. So, Glacial Chasm, Thawing Glaciers, Ice Flow, Halls of Mist. Do I have a Halls of Mist? I think I might do. I know I've got this card. And this, Safe Haven. Although I think mine might be a Chronicles version, maybe. Oh, that's Diamond Valley. Huh. Yeah, definitely a thing we don't see anymore. Okay, Undiscovered Paradise. Oh, phasing again. And that whole bouncing self thing. And let's just see as that pertains to land. It's nice when we've got quite a short, quite a small sample. So yeah, stuff that bounces. So we saw the Thawing Glaciers, we got the Undiscovered Paradise, Ghost Town. Add one colourless mana to your mana pool. 0, return it to your owner's hand. Use this ability only during another player's turn. Wow. And then of course the Circle of Protections, so yeah, these kept cropping up in core sets up to a certain point in time, and they all had to say, so there was, you know, one that prevented damage in each colour, but they were all white cards. So if I, seeing as we're in here, if I do Circle of Protection as the name, and then we are in, what, 5th edition I think for this one. So set, I think it's 5ED, I think is the, yeah, there we go. So there was one for artifacts, black, blue, green, red, and there was one for white as well. So if I just go into the tagger, yeah, so protection cycle, really, that's all you can say. Earthquake, another X spell, but for creatures without flying in each player. And then you're probably familiar with Hurricane in green. So there's our earthquake type effects. Oops, not Circle of Protection, we don't want that in there. Circle of Protection, earthquakes. Well, I don't know, that'd be quite good, wouldn't it? Circle of Protection for earthquake effects. Okay, 3 and a blue, 0/5. Berry. And I think you can see there, yep. It's a red thing. So when did we stop seeing it? Did it crop up in any, so there's some Commander product that it's been in. It was in M10. So it kept cropping up in the core sets. And something you notice in it with certain cards is they were reprinted in the core sets up to about, 6th, 7th edition, and then they just go away. Yeah, these are always fun. These ones that spit out tokens. Token generators in lands. Let's have a look at those. Cycle or replacement lands. So yeah, and this thing of, you know, when it comes into play, so these ones, you know, they're sacrificing a plains or particular card generally. And you get the other ones that are bouncing, but this one is a sack one. Sack outlet. Cycle or replacement land. What does it consider to be? Oh, yeah, okay. Those ones. As we're here, let's have a look. Oh, Lake of the Dead, that's right, yes. I think I have some of these. Don't know if I have them. Well, if I have them, I must have them in the original printing. Yep, certainly once I've gone through doing my stuff from random repacks, yeah, we'll be getting on to some specific sets for the Friday artwork episode. So yeah, something to look forward to. And the other thing I was curious about here was this token generation thing on land. So where was that first thing? So on that, and then we don't see it again really, do we? And it became a bit of a thing again. I mean, I quite, you know, I find a lot of these cards quite fun. Interesting here, we've got one for Slivers. Was it the first time we saw it? I think it was. And of course, good old Dark Depths. Of course. So yeah, there's this massive gap between, was it Alliances and, what's that one? Oh, Champions, that's it. Champions. Wow. Yeah, look, a bit of a thing for that block, actually. This, I believe, yeah, we'll be seeing this at some point on my deck flip throughs that I'm doing, where we're revisiting 2013. Yep, okay, near the end now. Well, I must admit, I'm really enjoying this episode. I know I've gone off, what's the word, down various rabbit holes where it's not particularly reflective of the time in Magic, but I think I'm really enjoying this way of doing it, so we'll see. Theft of land, yeah. Choose target land you control and target land an opponent controls. Exchange control. Okay, so yeah, obviously exchange control is a thing. Is it going to have, because it's exchange control generally, what's that one with the little kitty on it? Is that considered to be, I think, well, I suppose here it's actually cards that force you to exchange controls between other cards. Oh no, with itself. Okay. I would have expected more cards here. I suppose, yeah, because these are exchange cards, aren't they? They aren't gift cards, which is probably what I'm more thinking about, is gift style cards. But the bit I was curious about is theft of land, seeing as, you know, no hand, no land was a thing on the channel a while back. Well, a good whiles back. Okay. Do we have that still in yet? We do. So this is actually just gaining control. It's not really... Yeah, so this is theft as opposed to exchange. Yep, theft as opposed to exchange. 16 of them. Gain control of target land. So this is controlling it as opposed to blowing it up. Yeah, expect it to be a blue thing, I suppose. More than anything. Yeah, can someone please remind me about the astral cards? Oh, what was that? I should know, but I just don't remember at all. How many of those were there? $12. 1997. Yeah, anybody that remembers this or is aware of this, I'd be really curious about your comment, because I've seen them come up before. I think I've probably asked the same question before, knowing me. Oh dear, this is really making me smile. Oh, Wellspring. What's that one? Enchant a land when gain control. Lose control. Beginning of each of your turns, gain control. So this is weird. This is like it's like phasing between lose control. Hang on. So you gain control and you lose control and you gain control. Okay, yeah. So it's like phasing between, where it phases out to the person who actually has the land. I suppose that's one way of thinking about it. Oh, Pyroblast. Yeah, we've looked here and seen anything I didn't really go down. I mean, let's look at the whole interrupt thing. Just see when that stopped. Where are we? What's this set? That's Urza's Legacy, is it? Yeah. So up until Urza's Legacy, there was interrupts. Yeah, oh, there we go. This spell was an interrupt before 6th edition rules introduced. That was it. Yeah, it was connected to the stack. Of course. Of course. Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought I might as well do this as well. I don't think I did this. I don't know if I did this previously. So here's all the artwork for 5th edition. And I think it's very nice myself. We could probably look through and find out where this came from originally, but yeah. And you can see each one different artist. Pat Morrissey, J.W. Frost, and then John Avon. Very cool. So there we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I think going forward, this is probably where it's gravitating towards in terms of the format. So sadly, not so much about the archetype itself, which I'd already said it wasn't necessarily going to go down that rabbit hole, but a lot more about certain aspects of the card, how they've cropped up in Magic, and obviously various rabbit holes that I was going down. It's definitely making it super interesting. And this fella, Frenetic Efreet. So yeah, thanks once again. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next episode.